The sun bled across the Texas horizon, spilling gold over a land that had seen more tears than rain. The wind carried the faint scent of wild sage and dry earth, whispering through the crooked fence posts that framed the old ranch. He stood there, the cowboy, tall, silent, the weight of 1,000 yesterdays resting on his shoulders, his hat-shadowed eyes that had seen too much. And yet, when he looked toward her, something inside him softened. She was standing by the doorway of the wooden barn, her braid catching the dying light like a thread of honey. The world around them stilled. Even the horses seemed to quiet, as if the air itself knew that something sacred was about to be spoken. She didn't step closer, not yet. The space between them was heavy, filled with words they hadn't said, promises they were too scared to make. "I thought you were gone for good," she said, her voice barely rising above the wind. He didn't answer right away. He took a breath, slow and measured, as if her words carried the weight of the whole sky. "I was," he said finally, eyes fixed on the dust at his boots. "But I couldn't stay gone. Not from you." She laughed, not the sound of joy, but of disbelief, of pain that had learned to disguise itself as strength. "You left without saying goodbye, Colt. You broke me without touching me." He stepped closer then, boots crunching softly on the dry ground. "And yet here I am," he murmured, "still trying to fix what I never should have broken." Her eyes met his, sharp and wet with memory. "You can hurt me if you want," she whispered, voice trembling. "You already have." He reached out slowly, his hand stopping inches from her face, fingers shaking like a man trying to hold lightning. "I'll only hold you." The world went quiet again. The sunset wrapped them both in amber fire, and for the first time in years, the ache between them felt like hope instead of heartbreak. She didn't step away. He didn't move closer. But in that small, burning distance, forgiveness began to take root. The prairie wind sighed, and two souls learning that sometimes the hardest thing isn't letting go, it's staying. Night began to settle over the prairie, the kind that carried a hush too deep to ignore. The horizon burned with the last line of orange, then surrendered to indigo, wrapping the land in quiet. A single lantern flickered inside the barn, its glow spilling across the hay-strewn floor. Colt leaned against the doorframe, hat low, watching her move among the shadows like a memory that refused to fade. "Do you ever stop running?" she asked without turning, her fingers brushing the worn saddle that hung by the stall. "Only when I've got something worth stopping for," he said, his voice low, raw as the gravel road outside. She turned then, eyes glinting in the lantern light, soft but fierce. "And now, am I worth stopping for?" He hesitated. The question was simple, but it carried the weight of every road he'd taken, every night he'd spent under strange skies trying to forget her. Finally, he stepped inside, boots echoing slow and sure. "You always were," he said. "I just wasn't man enough to see it." Her breath caught, the way he said it, not desperate, not rehearsed, but honest, like the land itself had spoken through him. She turned away, staring at the wooden walls that had heard every argument, every whisper of their past. "I waited," she said softly. "Every night, I'd tell myself you'd ride back through that gate. I told myself a man like you couldn't just disappear. But then the seasons changed, and you didn't." He took off his hat, ran a hand through his hair, and sighed, the sound of a man who'd been lost too long. "I thought I was doing you a kindness," he said. "I thought leaving would spare you the storm I carry." Her eyes softened. "You don't get to decide what breaks me, Colt." Silence fell again. Only the crickets dared to speak. Then she stepped closer, one breath away. "You can't fix what's gone," she whispered, "but maybe you can prove it still matters." He looked at her, really looked at the woman who had waded through dust storms and long winters, who still stood strong even after love had cut her open. And for the first time, he smiled. "A small, broken thing, but real. I didn't come back to fix the past," he said. "I came back because you're the only thing that ever felt like home." Her tears glimmered, but she didn't hide them. She let them fall, slow and silent, like rain after years of drought. Outside, the wind rose again, rushing through the grass like a song half remembered. The lantern flickered between them, to hearts, one shadow. And somewhere between the pain and the promise, they both knew the hardest part wasn't forgiving what had been done. It was daring to believe that love could still grow in the ruins it left behind. Morning broke like a quiet confession. The sky stretched pale gold over the horizon, and the chill of dawn clung to the ranch like a memory that refused to fade. Colt had been awake for hours, sitting on the porch steps, hat in his hands, watching the world wake up. The air smelled of rain and redemption, both close, both uncertain. Inside, she stirred. Her name, Evelyn, drifted through his thoughts like a prayer he'd whispered too late. He could hear her footsteps, soft and sure, crossing the wooden floor. When she stepped outside, the light caught her hair and turned it into fire. She didn't speak. Neither did he. Some silences said more than words ever could. Finally, she sat beside him, wrapping her shawl tighter. "You left before," she said quietly. "How do I know you won't again?" He looked at her, jaw tight. "Because I'm tired of running from the one thing that ever made me want to stay." She studied him, the rough hands, the tired eyes, the lines carved by regret and distance. "You talk pretty, Colt," she murmured, "but pretty words don't build a future." He nodded slowly. "Then I'll prove it. Not with talk, with time." "Time's a hard thing to earn," she said. "Then I'll work for it," he replied. The wind picked up, rattling the old windmill by the barn. Evelyn looked up, eyes narrowing. "We should tie the horses before it hits," she said, standing. The air was charged. Together they worked in silence, rain soaking through their clothes, thunder rolling across the plains. When the lightning cracked the sky, she turned toward him, hair plastered to her face, eyes fierce. "You could have stayed gone," she shouted over the wind. "Why come back now?" He stepped closer, voice steady even against the storm. "Because I finally realized I was lost long before I left." She froze, breath trembling. The storm raged around them, wild and unforgiving, but in that chaos, there was something unbreakable, something that felt like truth. Colt reached for her hand, rough against soft, rain dripping from their fingers. "You said I could hurt you," he said softly. "But all I want now is to hold you through every storm that comes." The thunder swallowed his words, but she heard him, every one. And as the rain fell harder, she didn't pull away. For the first time, she let him hold her, not as a promise, not as forgiveness, but as two souls who had finally stopped fighting the same wind. By the time the storm passed, the world had changed. The air smelled clean again, washed of dust, of distance, of all the unspoken things that had hung between them. Her dress clung to her knees, her braid heavy with rain. Behind her, Colt saddled his horse slowly, as if each motion carried a question he wasn't sure how to ask. "I thought the storm would take the roof clean off," he said, his voice rough from the wind. She smiled faintly. "It's seen worse. So have we." He stopped then, hand resting on the worn leather strap, and looked at her, really looked. She wasn't the same girl he'd left behind. "You kept this place standing," he said quietly, "even when I wasn't here to help." "I didn't do it for you," she replied. "I did it because I had to, because giving up never fixed anything." He nodded, shame flickering in his eyes. "I know. I spent years learning that lesson to slow." Evelyn turned toward him, stepping into the sunlight that spilled through the open doorway. "So what now, Colt? You ride out again? Or you finally mean what you say?" He took a breath, deep, steady, final. "No more running," he said. "If you'll have me, I'll build this place with you, board by board. And if all I can do is hold you when the wind comes hard, then that'll be enough." Her heart stuttered. It wasn't a grand promise, not a fairy tale vow, but it was real, the kind of truth that only came after you've broken and bled for love. She walked to him, stopped close enough to feel his breath. "Then hold me now," she whispered. He did. For a long time, neither spoke. The rain dripped from the eaves, the sun climbed higher, and the world felt new, fragile, but alive. His arms wrapped around her like shelter, and the silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was peace. As the camera of memory would pull away, two silhouettes framed by dawn, the old barn standing proud behind them. His voice would echo like a final line meant not just for her, but for anyone who'd ever been lost and found again. "Sometimes," Colt murmured, "you don't need to fix what's broken. You just need to hold on until it becomes whole again." Across hearts that needed to hear them. And as the screen faded to gold, a soft voice whispered through the calm, "If this story found you, hold on to it. There's more where this came from." Subscribe, stay close, because the heart's journey isn't over yet.